My name's Skye Ladell. I'm a dancer and an actress, and I come from Australia. Well, South Africa and Australia.
Welcome to Studio Sessions, a video series for creative performers. Each week we go behind the scenes on the shoots and sit down with guests to discuss their careers, the creative industry, and share the lessons they've learned along the way.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How's your day been today?
It's been great. It's been so fun. It was so awesome doing all of the looks, and we really played around with poses and everything. It was awesome.
So how did it kind of work going from South Africa to Australia then?
So I was born in South Africa, and then I moved to Australia with my family when I was 12. Yeah.
And did you kind of start dancing when you were in South Africa then?
Yeah, I started dancing at 3, so really young. I was doing tap and ballet in South Africa, and then did a bit of modern and ballet. And then when I moved to Australia, I really started to dive into more styles.
And what was the difference between, obviously you were very young at the time, but between South Africa and Australia? Did you see like a big change when you moved over?
Yeah, definitely. With the training in South Africa, it was great. My teacher was amazing, and I'm still in contact with her today. But I think the ballet world was a lot more intense in Australia. There was a lot more styles that you could dance in Australia. I think it had just progressed a lot further than in South Africa. South Africa was quite basic, but the passion started in South Africa, so I can't complain.
And was it 12 you moved?
Yeah.
What did that feel like, moving to a new country at such a young age when you're kind of like starting school and stuff?
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember I didn't quite understand it at the time. And then, yeah, it was wild to go through such a big lifestyle change as well, because South Africa is, you got huge walls around your houses and you can't walk down the streets. The crime is pretty bad over there. So then to come to Australia where there's no walls around your house and you could just walk to the milk bar with your friends was quite a drastic life change. And my brain had to relearn safety things because it wasn't that necessary in Australia. So yeah, definitely. And the schooling systems were different. It was wild. Everything changed.
And in terms of like dance as well then, so what did it look like when you got to Australia, and like what was it that kind of drove you into thinking, oh, dance is something I want to continue to do?
I remember I always kind of trained in ballet. And I remember when I found out I was moving to Australia, I knew that there was the Australian Ballet School and all of that stuff. So I went to Australia already. I think when I was probably 4, I decided I wanted to do dancing professionally. I always thought I was going to go into ballet. So I think the difference to what I do now happened when I was around 16. Yeah, when ballet got a bit more serious and pre-professional, I backed out and went to the more upbeat jazz.
And what was it about the kind of different styles like jazz that really kind of drew you in?
I think I always found that I could be more creatively free in the commercial jazz styles, because ballet, the training I had was amazing, but it really showed me how particular ballet is and how you are kind of striving for a perfect performance. And I think that kind of took away the artistry for me in a different way. So yeah, I preferred more of the loose movement and the fun that you can have in a performance for jazz.
And how important is artistry for you within a performance?
So important. It's so important. I love storylines with dancing and intentions and following that, but then I love the freedom of the movement that you can use to express it, I guess. Yeah, and ballet has great storylines following it all the time, and it's so particular with how you're communicating something, but the added perfectionist qualities that you need to make that a career is hard. Yeah.
And what's your advice to someone if they're kind of like looking to improve their story and kind of artistry?
Honesty, and the more real your intention is, the more it draws from a raw place of truth, then the more it's going to read. And no judgment. You can't judge your creative pathways. You can't judge how you go about a storyline or what your objective is in something. You just got to like let yourself feel everything and not be afraid to show the audience that. Yeah.
And in terms of like judgment and stuff, how do you not take on judgment? Because I feel like it's so hard, especially with like social media and stuff, to not feel judged at every moment.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a battle. I feel like it's constantly, I don't think anyone can ever be judgment free. Like you're always kind of thinking that way, but I just think you gotta remember that what you're putting out there is bigger than any judgment that you could receive back. And then it's trial and error. Like, you could put something out and it might get judged, but then the next thing you put out is not going to get judged, and you're just going to keep, and also I always tell myself, if your art is being judged or if it's affecting people for good or for worse, it's good art, because that's the whole point of it.
To create an emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
So coming to the looks from today, what was the first look and what made you bring that?
Yeah, the first look was the animal print. It was, a 2-piece animal print with some gold jewelry, and I just wanted to draw back to my roots of South African animals and game reserve. Yeah, the wild. We did a bit of posing that was kind of animalistic, crawling, which was really cool. I feel like it really encapsulated the look.
Yeah, I feel like I love kind of having that kind of story built into a look as well, because I feel like it just adds so much more of like who you are as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like someone else could copy that, but it wouldn't be them.
Yeah. And it gave us dimension to play with as well. We were like, it was cool. I love that one.
In terms of kind of like putting together outfits and kind of thinking of like how to build your own story into what you're wearing or the kind of whole vibe, what would your advice be to someone kind of like looking to build a portfolio?
I would say, I mean, it depends on what the portfolio is for, I guess. If it's something for performers, I think bringing something that's yours is really cool, because it's going to stand out. And they see so many photos of people, so to get something that really encapsulates you is a cool idea. And then you also feel really comfortable posing in that, and you have your own little reason for why you're dressed that way and why you're posing this way, and it just helps. It makes the whole vision come together.
Yeah.
So,
and what kind of visions stand out for you?
I always love a concept. Like, if I'm seeing something and I can see it's almost like a film scene, and there's a photo that's just been taken of a film scene. Like, I love that kind of photo shoot style. Yeah. Yeah,
I feel like, and this is one thing I always say to people, I'm like doing a shoot probably like a year and a half ago now, and I feel like we went to, like, I've got like a Kate Moss book over there, and like for inspo, we're kind of like looking through some like good like inspo.
Yeah.
And I'm like kind of noticing during that she's not looking at the camera in almost all of the photos.
Really?
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then it kind of made me think about film, because in film, people don't look at the camera.
Yeah.
And you're so used to seeing people not connect and look at the camera. It kind of, especially if there's a concept there, it brings you into that story a little bit. You're like, oh, what's going on here? And
yeah.
Kind of like adds another dimension of like, it feels like there's a story going on.
And you're witnessing it.
Yeah.
Fly on the wall. Yeah. That's cool.
So kind of like moving on, at what point did you kind of think, oh, this dance is something that I can realistically do professionally?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like I always just knew I was going to make it happen. I was just going to do whatever it took to get there. I think I remember I moved from one dance school to a really intense ballet school, but the weird thing with my career, I guess, is I always thought I was going into ballet, and then when I did change over, I was taking hip-hop classes I'd never done before, and more intense jazz classes and commercial classes and heels classes when I was about 16. So I guess maybe then would be the time where I thought maybe I would be able to do this. And then I remember actually when I was 17, there was a big competition in Australia where they were choosing 8 hip-hop dancers to go to LA to do like a big video. And I went to this thing because I was doing so many hip-hop classes. I was like, this is great. I'm just going to go and take class from these LA choreographers. It'll be cool. And then at the end of the day, they ended up picking me to go to LA. And so I think that moment and that trip, actually, I was like, okay, I could really make this a career in the style of commercial hip-hop and all of that stuff.
Moving on to the second look from today. What was that and what made you bring that?
That was kind of like a Blair Waldorf black sheer tight and white poofy Marilyn Monroe dress. That one was super. I saw the dress in the shops and I thought that it was really different for me. I've never been in something that feminine. So I wanted to play onto that with the black back seam tights and the big white chunky heels. And I thought it was, it was fun. It was really fun to play with that look.
And what was the story behind that one?
I guess it was almost like a play on a bit of a darker Marilyn Monroe, kind of like a younger Marilyn Monroe-esque vibe. Bit of, Gossip Girl?
Yeah.
Got that Blair Waldorf energy. So
so kind of like moving on to, you've kind of like moved to your like professional school, like kind of like the harder training. What does that look like in terms of kind of your development over your time there?
Yeah. It was intense. I remember I did a year training full-time dance, and it was intense because I remember that really was the moment where I was unlearning all of the ballet things and then learning all the commercial hip hop. And you're trying so many new styles when you're training in full-time, and so many different choreographers come in and everybody's got a different want that they're after, and you're constantly trying to fit these boxes and see where you fit best, and it's overwhelming. And I think it'll be overwhelming for anyone who ever does full-time training, but it's so helpful. And I remember when I finished and I got into the professional industry, I don't think I would have survived if I didn't have that training. As intense as it was, yeah, you learn so much. And
in terms of being put into boxes, how do you find what box to put yourself in?
I think I remember there were classes that I would do where I just, you can see yourself in the mirror, and if it was like a really gangster hip hop routine, I wouldn't really be the best at it. Like I just wouldn't feel comfortable. It was still fun, but I think you're still kind of trying to find how you work in that style. So it comes pretty naturally, because then I had this teacher, Matthew Godey, and he was very voguey shapes and quick, fast, like changing shapes so quickly. And I really loved that class. And every time I would pick up the choreography really fast, I would know what I was doing. And it kind of made me realize, okay, that's more of a box that I can really see myself thriving in, because it comes easy to me, it's natural, and I feel good doing it, and it's enjoyable. So,
and how do you kind of like balance because I feel like obviously you can kind of find the feeling of like, this feels right, but I feel like a lot of people have like, I feel like I should do this because that looks cool to do, rather than kind of what actually fits your body.
Yeah. Well, I think it's easy to go the route of, okay, I look good doing this, I can work in this, so let me just go to that. But I think you always got to pay attention to what you enjoy the most as well, and then finding that balance, because as a dancer you want to be as versatile as possible, and you want to be booking a contemporary job and then a hip-hop job and a ballet job even, and there's so much work out there for every style. So yeah, never limiting yourself, but also knowing where your strengths are, and then also knowing your weaknesses and working on those as well. I would never turn your back on the styles that make you a bit uncomfortable.
And how do you know what to work on at what point?
In terms of the styles?
Yeah. Just your training in general, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess it's consistency. I also find that the more I do, right now I'm in a professional show, so we're doing 8 shows a week, and it's, every evening you're at the theater, and most evenings are when classes are, so you never really get to train the same way. And it's so important to keep training even when you're working as a professional, because your body, the more shapes and movement you can expose to your body, then the easier everything's just going to start to feel. You're going to get into the rhythm and be able to jump from this to that to everything. And even at my age, like if you stop training, then your body kind of forgets, oh, okay, this style, I have to be more like this. And so it's just a consistency thing.
And how do you stay consistent?
Just doing as many, not necessarily classes, but just even getting in front of a mirror or a reflection and going, okay, I'm going to put this song on and just dance hip hop, or tell yourself that's what I'm going to aim for, and then kind of find movement in that, and then you could put on a contemporary song and do that, or take classes from all the studios and teachers, even online classes they have. Yeah.
Brilliant. As we move on to the third look from today, what was that? What made you bring that?
That was the Peaky Blinders look. That look kind of was, I would say, last minute a bit. I just kind of found all these different pieces that I loved, and then put them together, and then we added the hat at the very last minute, and it really pulled in this Peaky Blinder-esque look, which was really cool. Sometimes
it's those looks where you do take random things and put them together, but it's kind of all because you love all of them. It's almost all of your personality kind of like thrown into one space.
Yeah.
And then it also kind of brings such a unique look to it as well, because it's not straight off the shelf, something you've seen someone else wear. It's almost like this is pieced together based on all the things that I found.
Totally. Yeah. And that's really what happened, because I love the shorts. I've had those for a while, and they're one of my favorite pairs of shorts. And then I found all these belts and the hat and the little David Bowie shirt. This is very British, I feel.
Yeah,
It's
it's got that vibe.
British, Peaky Blinders, Skye in London was the theme.
Skye in London, let's go to Skye in LA. What was the hip hop competition that you went over for, and what did you learn over there?
Yeah. That trip, it was a week in LA. I'd never been to LA before. And we basically went over there to film a video with a choreographer called Alex Chung. And he's a really big choreographer in LA. And it was awesome. I was the youngest one on the trip. All the girls were about 25 at the time, and I was 18. And we went over there. It was just the wildest week of my life. I met so many dancers that I really looked up to. And in 2018, I think all of the Millennium Dance videos were blowing up online, and it was kind of this world that everyone would look up to like that. And to meet all of the people and to be in the rooms and everything was amazing. And I feel like it really changed my perspective as a dancer to being like, okay, I can do this. This is a world I really want to dive into. And then it kind of manifests because now I'm more going towards acting, and that's kind of like a main focus. And it always changes, but it's cool to look back on the moments that really made you go, oh, okay, this is taking me this way now. And yeah.
What would your advice be to someone who is meeting someone that they look up to for the first time?
Ooh, that's interesting. I feel like I've met so many people that I look up to all the time. Oh, that's so interesting. I would say I love to be a sponge. If I'm meeting someone that I highly respect in any industry, I would never be too like tell me everything because that's a bit uncomfortable, I guess. But yeah, always just being respectful and then just learning as much as you can from them, talking to them, finding out things. Yeah, and also I think it's awesome to voice your respect for people and tell them. Most people love to hear that kind of stuff. If you really look up to them and admire them, it's awesome to hear. I think it would make anyone's day. So yeah, just be genuine and humble and a sponge.
And even like, what's your advice on kind of like getting confidence to go and talk to those people? Because I can imagine you meet someone who you've followed online for years, you've built up a perception of them in your head.
Yeah.
It must be quite intimidating to kind of go and have that first conversation. Totally.
And then you hear those horror stories where people would meet someone that doesn't meet their expectation as a human. And so I guess just going up and thinking this could go either way, but regardless, I want to go and tell this person how they've inspired me or something. And then just, going with that, the honesty.
And would you have like questions in your mind of things you want to ask people?
Sometimes, yeah, definitely. If they've inspired me because of a certain thing, I would definitely go in and rack their brain and ask them all the questions I could. Yeah, I feel like you've got such a good opportunity there to learn something. Yeah. And I feel like, because I always remember this when I'm like going to see, it's like a little gig of like an artist that I like, did like a little pop-up in London. And it's like you could go along for the evening. It was like £15, so it was like super cheap. And you kind of watch them in a really small set. There might have been like 50 people in the room. And then after everyone got like a vinyl and then they signed it, and then kind of like you could have like a little chat with them. Sick. And I remember like queuing up in this thing and being like, giving them this like vinyl I'd just been given, they signed it, and I was like, oh, that was a really great set. You guys are great. And it was just like, okay, moved on. And then my friend who was behind me was like, oh, I saw you guys when I was over in America this time. And then I asked them a question, and I was just like, I just kind of like flustered in that moment because I was like, didn't have anything to think of quickly. Yeah, as if I'd have kind of thought about that in advance of if I ever met these people, what would I ask them? Yeah. I feel like that's a really powerful thing to kind of approach someone with, because then you're like, this might be your one chance in the room with someone who's potentially in a position you wouldn't be in. Yeah. What would that question be if you could possibly ask them? Totally, yeah. And I think even it's such a interesting thing when you meet people that you have never met but you know. It's such a weird concept of I know you but you don't know who I am, and it's always weird. But I guess also just approaching every situation like, well, we all come from the same place and we're all humans, and it's like, and then if they decide to be a jerk in return, then you haven't lost anything. But if they're not, great. It's win-win-win-win. Yeah. I was looking into something recently and it kind of came up with the idea of parasocial bonding, which is the name for that, which is basically where you'll follow someone online, and if you've kind of consumed enough of their content or watched enough of their stuff, you feel like you
know them and like you have a relationship with them. Like if there's anyone you ever watch on like YouTube and you've spent like hours of your life just watching the same person, or you've watched them like dance for hours and hours and hours, then you build a relationship with them and they have no idea who you are, which is like such a weird concept. But then I think if you flip it, you'll have that with other people too. There'll be other people who've kind of followed you for years, other people that have kind of like seen you, so they'll approach you with that same concept of like, I already know this person.
Yeah, that is so true.
So can you mention before about kind of moving into acting, what was the kind of catalyst to move into that?
I think it was during COVID. I was with my family and I was watching a lot of movies, binge watching just a billion movies, and then I watched Alice in Wonderland for the 70th time in my life, and then I don't know why, but that just sparked me to...
The cartoon or the real one?
The real one.
Oh, yeah.
With Johnny Depp. And because I've always loved that movie, and then for some reason when I watched it during lockdown, I think everyone's brains in lockdown were kind of going down a
rabbit
crisis. Yeah. And then I think it clicked and I thought I should really try to pursue this. I'd met a bunch of actors pretty around the same time, and I realized people were actually pursuing this, and it's possible in Australia. It's easy to connect over to LA and all of that stuff. So I thought I should give this a go. And then I remember talking to my parents about it the next day, thinking that they would reject the idea, but they didn't. And they were like, that's actually, you love storytelling. It's your favorite part. So you should go into it. And then I just dove straight into it.
So what's your advice for someone who's thinking the same of like, oh, acting could be something for me, but they've never done it before? What's your advice to someone starting?
I think the easiest way to start and get your foot in the door, or start getting your feet in the door, is to research scenes from plays or films that you really resonate with, and then filming it and just getting a friend to help you out. And it's going to be awkward because self-tapes are always super awkward, but you get used to it as you keep doing it. And just, filming yourself, get some good tapes together. I would always say 3 that show different genres in your acting, and send them off to every agent you can think of. But also send them to agents that you think would align with what you want to do and your vision and everything. Yeah,
I feel like the concept of just doing it makes... Because I feel like I can imagine if I was like, okay, I'm going to start acting, I'll go onto YouTube and I'll be like, how to act. And then I feel like I'd just spend the next like 5 months just watching videos on like how to act. And never actually doing anything.
It's so, I feel like it's like theory and practicality. Like you've got to do both. And I think the people that can do both get further. Because it's also, I think most of my feed on social media is just acting videos and lectures and teachers and even actors saying things in quotes and everything. And it's so good to train that part of an industry or an art form that you're pursuing, but then also just doing it, and getting a feel for what you look like and how you sound as an actor or as any artist, really.
Because I feel like we have we want to be perfect in everything we do, and I feel like it's so easy to just sit and watch videos again and again and again. I feel like dance is exactly the same as you could just sit and watch 500 pieces of choreo without stepping into a studio, but in your brain you're like, oh no, I'm still learning. No, definitely.
But it's interesting because I think it definitely helps, but you're still gonna feel disconnected from it. As soon as you actually do it, then you start to build that connection a lot quicker.
And what's your advice in terms of picking the right kind of like thing for you, or filming, or kind of how do you do those self-tapes?
I usually look for a scene that will bring emotion up easily. Because I think when you're getting a tape down to show an agent or to show someone, you kind of want to put your best foot forward. And there's so many times where you'll get a scene for an audition or something that you don't quite resonate with, and then that's when you've got to do the deep, heavy work of, okay, how do I actually make a connection to this scene from my own life or anything like that. But then you can get scenes sometimes where you're like, oh my gosh, I completely get this character and I know exactly how they're feeling and what they're going through, and I've been there before. And those scenes always are it's so easy and fun when you get that, because you're like, oh, this is a breeze and I can let go, and that's when it gets really playful and fun. And I would say always go for scenes like that for agency submissions or anything, because it'll make you stand out, because the truth will just be there. You won't have to try.
And like, what was your advice in terms of getting into the mindset of those ones that don't feel like you, and how would that correlate to dance? Because I feel like, touching on what we went back to earlier, is if you're doing styles that aren't you, I almost feel like that feels similar. Yeah,
definitely. I think I've never really made the connection between the two. I should actually think of that, because I feel like it would help with both industries. Because
it's characters effectively you're playing both ways.
Definitely. I think there's a lot of techniques in acting that you learn to make the connection easier, and there's so many different routes you can go. If it affects you, something from your past that you could kind of bring to it that would kind of resonate that emotion, then it can be helpful. Or you could come up with an entire character. I've done that before as well. I write an entire life story of this character and like certain moments that they would have experienced as a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old that make them act that way. So I think there's a lot more psychology when you're going into a scene in an acting character. I think dancing, it's almost similar. Like, you're definitely stepping into another character's body. It's probably just not as psychologically deep. I mean, you can get there if you want to, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it's more so a physicality thing. And I often find with even acting, as soon as I find the physicality of the character, I can find it quicker.
And do you think that's because you've danced before?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's definitely, I know the way to move to express a certain person or status or class or anything.
And in terms of acting as well, what kind of work have you done?
I've done a film called 1 Million Followers that came out on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. And that's all so far.
And how did that kind of come about, and what was the process of that like?
That was that was one of my first auditions that I did, and then I booked it and we shot in Thailand. I was there for about 6 weeks. I shot Thailand and Canada, but I was only needed in Thailand.
Yeah.
But yeah, 6 weeks shooting. It was amazing. I hadn't done much acting training before it. And I hadn't done much acting training before it. And then just going on set, I just learned as much as I could. And I was very open with everybody and said, I've never done this before. I'm going to try my best, but if I have questions or if I'm just on set watching, it's just because I want to soak in as much as I can. And I really did. And I would get into these deep conversations with actors that I really looked up to because I had seen work that they'd done before, and getting to talk to them and get guidance from them. I still get guidance from them today. So it's awesome. You just make the best connections and friendships, and it's awesome.
If you could have sat down with so imagine kind of like first day on set there, what you know now, what would you tell that person?
Ooh. I would have a book to tell that person, I think. I would have so many pages. I think I'm so proud of that version of myself that just walked onto a film set. And it was, an international film being made. It was a US production. It was quite a big jump into the industry. And I did well. I was, I had to cry on my first day, and I'd never cried in a scene or a dance or anything. So it was all so new to me, but I would tell myself all of the techniques that I know now and all of the training that I've had since then. So there would be a lot. But it's also sometimes I think when you just get thrown into something and you just are like, okay, well, this is me and this is the best that I can do. And I'm not going to judge myself or hold this high expectation. Whatever comes out, comes out. I think giving yourself that space of freedom is good, because then you don't overthink it and you can just get into it. I remember the first scene I ever shot, the director came up to me while I was sat on a couch on the set, and he said, we've decided we're going to make you bawl your eyes out crying. So when you're ready, you can do it. And then he went back to the camera and they started rolling and the whole set was silent. And I was sat there on the couch going, I've never done this. But I think just being honest with myself and going, I've never done this, just made it easier, because my body went, and that's okay, let's just try it. And then it happened and it was good.
And what's your advice if you need to cry on demand?
To be honest, I don't know, because I think in that specific situation, I was just terrified.
So scared that you literally cried anyway.
Yeah. So nervous. And I remember after the scene, I couldn't stop crying because I think my body was so nervous. Yeah, which was just funny. But I think now I love to listen to a sad song. And it's always a bit awkward before a scene. You're like, 1 second, put your earphones in and just get there, close your eyes and kind of draw from memories that could make you upset or anything like that. But I also find there's been a couple of acting exercises I've done in classes where eye contact can really bring out emotion for me. And if I have a scene partner that I trust, to just sit in silence and have like really intense eye contact can connect both scene partners, and then also can bring up emotions. And you don't have to look at them thinking anything, it just kind of happens. And I've had that happen quite a few times in class. So I definitely know that that's a good tool to have in my toolkit.
So moving on to fourth and final looks from today, what was that and what made you bring that?
That was the like black cat look with the pattern tights and the big chunky boots. I wanted something quite dark and I don't know. I think that I always find myself more comfortable in those kind of darker vibes of an outfit or a photo. And it was cool. We added a bunch of belts and the tights were really cool. I found the tights first and I think that's what made me go, okay, I really want to utilize these for the shoot. And then I've had those big chunky boots for years, which I love. So yeah, and then the wet hair look as well kind of brought it all together.
Yeah, that was a nice thing. Yeah. And like, what's your advice to someone if they want to kind of build their own looks?
I like to do things that feel like me, but then also kind of branch out, look for different things that might actually fit into you, like a version of yourself you haven't quite explored yet. Maybe I love to think that way, and then accessorizing all your outfits is the key, I would say. Figuring out a hairstyle for the outfit, just thinking of the whole look and the concept and the theme behind what you're wanting to show, just makes it all come together. And then making sure they're not overlapping and they're not quite similar.
Because I feel like you want that kind of diversity in there that kind of makes you show the different characters, not kind of like the same version, like slightly different versions of the same character.
Totally, yeah. Because also when you have a theme behind it, you can show it in your face more. You can kind of step into that.
Have you kind of get into the mindset of the character.
Yeah.
Especially like back to the first one, the kind of animalistic kind of like vibes of that.
Definitely, yeah. And then the other one was a bit more, the Marilyn Monroe one was a bit cutesy.
Yeah, you kind of,
innocent,
I feel like as soon as you said that, I kind of just went like that. I feel like there's just so many kind of like shapes and poses that kind of convey the kind of emotions that you associate with those kind of things.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely.
So obviously we're in London now. How did you end up here?
I moved here last June for just the industries. I just wanted to see what it was like. I didn't plan to stay here for long. I kind of, I work between Australia and London. So I was thinking, let me go over to London. I tried LA, I tried Australia, obviously, but I'd never really been to London and seen the industries and how it works over here. So I came with no intention to stay for long, but then I loved it. I think there's so much art to experience here, whether that's training or watching shows and plays. It's amazing. It's like you're never bored. And I really fell in love with London, so I came back.
How did you make the most of London?
It's interesting because it's definitely changed since I was here last year. I had way more free time last year, and now I'm kind of in show mode. So I'm, getting ready for the show in the day, going to the steam room, getting a massage, all of the like self-care body things to keep my body from falling apart. And then I go to do the show. But definitely, the line bike system here is great. I'm a big fan of the little bike roads. And I love to just go on the bike and explore. I think I'm reading this book at the moment and it talks about how art comes from it comes from images, like the way that we are all artists. It's from the things that we see, and that can really, start an idea or a concept, or it just gets your creativity flowing. And so I love, especially in the last month, I would say I'm really trying to explore different things and really just look around me and see things, and then, pay the money for a show ticket. Like, I think when you're young and you're in your 20s, you're a bit like, oh, I don't want to spend too much, but go and do it because you're going to get so inspired. And I think now's the perfect time to just do that and to get into that rhythm of seeing art and all of that stuff.
I feel like there's something magical in seeing art with your own eyes and not through a screen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. Definitely.
Because, I feel like it's very easy to sit on Pinterest or sit on Instagram and just scroll. And everything you see is of a standard that's like, oh, that's amazing. But I feel like there's a difference between seeing something and experiencing it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, because when you see something, you're like, that's a nice image, but it doesn't make you feel anything.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like when you're actually kind of going around in person, like then you're building your own stories to attach to them.
And it's the whole journey. I mean, I went to watch the opera for the first time on Monday, which was, I've never been to the opera before. I've seen videos of opera and heard songs and everything, which is similar. It's all stuff on my phone. But I've never actually taken myself to the opera, and it was the Royal Ballet and the opera. But it was everything. It was like from getting ready to catching the train to walking through the theater to seeing the theater to watching the opera with the theater around you. That's so gorgeous and beautiful. Everything is sparking so much inspiration, and I would have never gotten that same experience if I just watched a video, because I look up and I'm in my living room and it's not the same thing. It's such a full picture when you are in there in the moment.
And how do you feel like those experiences affect the way you think about things and like your creativity?
I think specifically, I feel like it's always going to be different. I think that when I went to the opera, there was a lot of my childhood that was feeling really good because I was in this ballet theater, and it was all of these things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I've always dreamt of what this looks like, and I'm here now. And so sometimes you can connect back with a younger version of yourself that is so excited, you know what I mean? In the moment, it's like, I could imagine my 11-year-old self just jumping for joy. And then the opera, I've never been an opera singer or really interested in it, but the vocals were like sparking emotions in me that I just didn't even expect. And those things, it's like everything, you just never know what's going to happen, and like allowing yourself to be moved and to feel things that are coming up and to just let emotions flow through you from what you're looking at. It just will make you so much more creative and also think differently, because you'll be like, oh, okay, wow, like I was feeling really good, but then I was also feeling emotional about this while I was there, and all of these things are kind of together, and it can be quite colorful to go and do.
Yeah, super interesting. I went to see the ballet the other week, and it was a story that I didn't know. So that was like a real challenge to be like, no one's telling me what's happening here, and I have to like concentrate so hard to try and get what's going on. And I pieced it together, and I had my own story in my head of what was happening. Yeah. And I think it was very accurate to what the actual thing was. So I feel like, but I feel like I don't think I've ever had 2 hours that have gone so fast, because my brain is just concentrating so much.
Yeah.
I feel like your brain isn't challenged enough when you look through a screen, because it's a bit like everything's just being told to you in the most simple, clear, quick way.
Yeah.
Whereas to actually spend 2 hours and stop and focus, like that doesn't happen much in our lives.
Yeah. And also even the turning your phone off during a performance, if you're watching something on your phone and you're like, I don't understand this, like 2 seconds have passed and you don't understand what's happening, you'll just Google it immediately. All of us would do that. But when you're stuck with your phone off and you just have to watch and actually think about it, it's crazy what it does. And the opera I saw was in German or French, and it had subtitles. So they had screens with subtitles that we'd have to read and then watch the opera and then read. And it was a 4-hour opera, and it felt like it was an hour. Like it was crazy when we got to the end. Because, I guess my brain was working.
Yeah. I think, again, like subtitles is one where, obviously, like everyone now just puts subtitles when they watch something anyway. But I feel like if you watch like a foreign language thing, like I've watched like kind of anime films and stuff that are like, you just have to read it. And I feel like the way my brain works anyway is like, I just absorb that story so much stronger because I have to pay attention. Yeah. And I feel like, but if it was anything else, I'd be sat there kind of on my phone at the same time. There'd always be 2 things happening. 100%.
It almost feels like you're reading a book with the movie at the same time, which I really like. When Squid Games came out, I watched it in
Korean,
and then I
Yeah.
read the subtitles, and it was so much better because then you get the real emotion in their language. You can just hear the emotion.
Yeah.
When it's dubbed, sometimes it's a bit like,
I feel like that was one of the worst dubbed things I've ever seen.
oh, did you watch it?
So because often like I watched it dubbed, so if I watched it at home I would have put the subtitles on,
Yeah.
but because often like I'll be editing, and if I've got like a 5-hour edit session, I'll put something on a screen.
Nice.
Often something that my girlfriend won't want to watch at home, so it's a bit like, oh, I'll just whack that on because I
Yeah.
can watch it now.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I can just put that on there, so I put the narration on. But then when it's like, that's so secondary in that moment where they didn't ever probably intend for it to be dubbed.
Yeah.
So the dubbing is so poor that I was just like listening to a really awful thing, and like the voice acting was awful, and it was just like not the one.
I did hear everyone was saying if you watch Squid Games, you can't watch it dubbed.
It was
So that must be
laughably
why.
bad. Yeah.
Oh no.
So you mentioned you're working on a show in London now. What's that, and how did that come about?
Yeah, it's a show called Sabrage, and it's a circus cabaret show, I guess. It's filled with a lot of different acts. It's got 2 hosts that are French and American, and it's really fun. I've been working with the company Strut Fret for 3 years now, I think.
What had they done before?
They would do shows. There's Blanc de Blanc, which was running in Australia for a really long time. They've done Limbo. They've got another show called The Party. They've just got one that's come out in Australia called La Ronde, which is doing really well. So they're always kind of making these circus cabaret type shows. And then Sabrage is a show that they've brought to London, a new one. So yeah, being a part of that has been amazing. I was doing Blanc de Blanc with them in Australia. I was doing it on a cruise ship. And then they called me to be in the London show. So it's been awesome. I love the company. It's like a family to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what have you learned through doing the show?
So many things. It's definitely, when I was on the cruise ship, I learned a lot. I stepped into the role of line captain as well. So learning kind of not micromanaging, but like managing things while also performing and making sure a show runs smoothly. So there's been so many little lessons that I've learned within this company, which is why I think it feels like a family. I feel like it's really allowed me to step into a more mature version of myself as a performer. And then the less is more concept, and my character and the act that I do is quite slow, and it's a lot of lines and shapes, and I'm in a red silhouette. So you have to kind of be very particular with the shapes that you're making. And then to be doing less and realizing that reads more to the audience has been a big lesson. Connecting with the audience, not being shy to have eye contact with someone who's not performing in the show has been because the show that we do is quite intimate and everybody's involved. So that's been an awesome lesson as well.
And
many things.
And what is your advice in terms of like trying to build a connection with an audience, whether that's kind of like during a show or kind of just online in general?
I actually really struggle with this because I think as a person I'm quite shy, and then when I'm performing I'm very, what's the word? I'm bigger. Yeah. I'm more confident, way more confident, and I always found especially in this show where there's moments where you do have to look at the audience, I always found that was kind of like the telltale sign that I'm shy, because I would be super confident, and then the minute I look at someone I started to and then only recently I feel like I've really started to understand that the character I'm stepping into doesn't have to stop where the stage does. Like that character that I'm feeling can actually just bleed into the way that I look at people and the way that I react or talk to them or look at them. There's so many things that is so interesting because it's like the full picture of stepping into a character.
Do you feel like you've got more confidence through doing it?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because our stage we've got audience all around. So everywhere you're walking, there's someone's eyes looking straight at you. So, and then you also kind of realize the more that you step into it and just walk with confidence, you realize that no one's judging you. No one's, like awkward that you're looking at them. They're loving it. They love that they're being included and involved, and that they get this little moment with a performer. And it's the same way for me. I'm like, oh, I get this really awesome moment that's quite like intimate even during a big show with one person, and it's a connection, and it's super cool because then you realize that that's the stuff that you're trying to do as an artist, as a performer. It's the connecting, which is cool.
And like for someone who's watching this who might be quite shy, what would your advice be to help them overcome that?
I think I'm a big advocate for owning it. I'm like, I am shy. Like, I'm quite a shy person when I first meet people. And I used to judge myself a lot and beat myself up and be like, oh my gosh, you need to, you know, be more confident. But now I just own it. And I'm like, you know what? If I meet someone, I'm going to be shy for the first day or the first hour, the first 15 minutes. And then I'm just like, it's just the shy version of me that's going to leave soon once you get to know me. But yeah, no judgment. I feel like everyone works differently. Everyone's minds work differently. But then not judging yourself, but I also think having a moment with yourself before anything that you think will make you nervous is not a bad idea. It's a great idea. Even if you're like, oh, I might get nervous, just go to a room quietly and just breathe and calm your breathing. That always helps me. And then doing the senses things where I touch something and really pay attention to how that feels on my fingertips and what I can smell, and really just getting particular with those senses can really bring you back to presence.
Boom, love that. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
No worries, thank you. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this episode, please share it. If you want to see more of these, click subscribe. And if you've got any questions or anything you want to ask, just drop them in the comments below. See you in the next session.